One of my funniest jokes is about Sister Mary Magdalene. See, there was a pastor who was always giving sermons, and the sermons were always about different topics, different homilies. And so this particular homily was about never speaking bad about anybody. And so Sister Mary Magdalene was there, and, the pastor thought very highly of Sister Mary Magdalene and said, Sister Mary Magdalene, can you please think of something negative to say about Satan? And Sister Mary Magdalene said, he's a hard worker. So, um, you know, maybe I got that joke mixed up, but you get the point, I guess. It's just that Satan is a hard worker, and Satan has a lot of minions working for evil. And one of the greatest legions of minions that is causing havoc today is the incels. And these incels' sole job is to annihilate women for many reasons. The last one was so that our current president could win the vote. That's why all the teachers and nurses and stewardesses and moms had to go, because they would have voted for the president we have now. So, the incels got together with Jared Kushner and Palantir, and they figured out a way to eliminate, that section of human voters. So they did, and that's what the demic was for, right? So, in my conversations with creation this morning, I learned something. And there was a song I was listening to called White Discussion, and it really made me think about, why things happen in life. And, men have been under fire for years for their conduct. Cheating, lying, beating, And if a woman ever did any of those things, you couldn't speak of it because, you're lying. But now we're realizing that, a lot of women are trash bitches. And unfortunately, these are the people raising our children. When the men step away and they leave the children with a trash bitch, it's hard for children to be raised properly. So, there's been no accountability for women in a lot of places. Oprah was a voice for women, and she gave women freedom, and she taught us liberty for women. And she instilled that in me more than any woman, I think, in my past. So, when she explained to women that if you go to a man's hotel room with him, or you invite him to your room, you should be planning on having sex. And if you're not, then don't go there. Because the man thinks that you're going there even if you say you're not going to do it. Because a lot of women will say they're not going to do it, and then they full intend to. That's the truth. Maybe you're not. But what happens is, if a man is intoxicated, controlling his ability to control his mind and what he's seeing and feeling are two different things. So when a woman is in a gray area with her behavior and a man is inebriated, then it's hard for him to see this gray area clearly. Now, I'm not saying that a woman deserves to be assaulted, but what I'm saying is a woman deserves to understand that she shouldn't put herself in a position to be assaulted. Because there's men out there who would never, under any circumstance, under any substance, would ever hurt a woman. And these are the good men in the world, and they need to be acknowledged at this moment. But the incels and the evil people, they exist that only want to hurt women. So for us to teach women that they should dress like hussies and go off and be in private places with men, this is not liberty. This is not freedom. This is ignorance. So, crying the rest of your life because you were assaulted could have been averted if you just didn't do stupid things like go back to a private room with a guy, especially if he's under the influence. So, how did incels keep women in check? Well, incels pretty much laid it on the line. They said that, if you're going to reject us, then we're going to watch you. And any man that you get with, we're going to destroy that. And every man that you get with, we're going to use that against you as armor to make all of our other incels friends who want to annihilate you. That's how they work, right? So women were held immediately accountable. We became terrified because we knew that there's freaks out there that actually think like this, and they work in large numbers. And right now, they're working for our current president. So, what have they done? Well, they kept women in check because it was getting crazy, I understand that for years, since the beginning of time, our liberties and freedom have been taken. But to use those freedoms and liberties just to be trash bitches, it's a disrespect to all the women that work for you to have those freedoms and liberties. It's also a disrespect to women who are not trash bitches. So, being kept in check is a blessing in disguise of evil, and even though Satan is a very hard worker, Satan cannot do anything without permission from creation.